Hello, I'm Ariel Daniel with the Lowell Observatory, and here's what's in the sky this March. The planets Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn will all be in the morning side of the sky this month. Jupiter and Saturn will be in the constellation Capricorn, and Mercury will be moving through Capricorn and Aquarius. On March 5th, there will be a very close conjunction between Jupiter and Mercury. This will be best observed in the early morning, just before sunrise to the southeast. Binoculars may help see the planets in the twilight sky, and skilled observers may be able to see them in daylight with a telescope. The two planets will appear about a quarter degree or half of a full moon width apart. The next day, March 6th, Mercury will be its farthest from the sun in our morning sky, providing a good opportunity for early risers to see it. Venus will be mostly hidden from us this month as it will appear very close to the sun. On March 26th, Venus will be at its closest to the sun in the sky and will transition from appearing in the morning to the evening side of the sky. From then until October 29th, Venus will gradually appear farther and farther from the sun and will be visible later and later after sunset. Mars will remain prominent, moving through the constellation Taurus, but it will gradually begin setting earlier and will become dimmer as it recedes from Earth. This month's new moon will be on March 13th, and the full moon will be on the 28th. March 20th will be the northern hemisphere's vernal equinox and the southern hemisphere's autumnal equinox. On this day, the sun will be directly over the Earth's equator, and day and night around the world will be roughly the same length. This will mark the beginning of the astronomical spring of the northern hemisphere and astronomical autumn in the southern hemisphere. The autumn constellations, such as Andromeda and Cassiopeia, are now nearly gone from the sky. The winter hexagon continues to be prominent, but it too will be setting earlier and earlier. Its departure from the night sky will be hastened by the lengthening days and later sunsets, and by the end of the month, the hexagon will already be low to the west at sunset. The winter hexagon is a huge formation that includes many of the sky's brightest stars. These include Capella and Auriga, Aldebaran and Taurus, Rigel and Orion, Procyon and Canis Minor, and Castor and Pollux in Gemini, and some will include Betelgeuse and Orion as well. The winter hexagon also includes Sirius, the dog star of Canis Major, which is by far the brightest star in the night sky. The spring sky will become fairly prominent this month. Ursa Major, the Great Bear, will cover much of the northern sky. Ursa Major contains the Big Dipper, perhaps the most famous formation of stars in the sky. Leo is the Lion and contains the bright star Regulus. Using the Big Dipper, one can easily find the North Star Polaris. Simply follow a line from the two stars of the edge of the Dipper's cup opposite the handle to the next medium brightness star. You'll follow the line in the direction that the cup would be open. You can also use the Big Dipper's handle to find two more constellations, Boötes and Virgo. Astronomers have a saying, arc to Arcturus and spike to Spica. Simply follow the arc of the Big Dipper's handle to these two stars. Arcturus is the fourth brightest star in the night sky overall and the second brightest visible from Flagstaff or farther north. It's also the brightest star of the constellation Boötes, the herdsman. Spica is the brightest star in the constellation Virgo, the maiden. Following the aforementioned arc a bit past Spica will bring you to another constellation, Corvus the crow. Following Boötes later in the night will be the constellation of Corona Borealis, the northern crown, Hercules the hero, and eventually the beginning of the summer triangle with the bright star Vega and the constellation Lyra the harp. March remains a great time for stargazing with binoculars. The winter sky's best sights are still visible through most of the month, although you'll have to catch them in the early evening by the end of March. Many of these objects can be found via Orion's famous belt. Following the line the belt makes to the right will take you to the Hyades and the Pleiades, two of the loveliest star clusters in the sky. If you follow that line to the left, it will take you to Sirius, the night sky's brightest star. Underneath Orion's belt is Orion's sword. In the middle of the sword is the Orion Nebula, the closest massive star-forming region to us and the brightest one in the sky. The open star cluster Coma Berenices is also a great binoculars target. It can be found behind Leo and was long considered to be the end of the lion's tail. In fact, the four closest star clusters to us are all visible this month. These are the Ursa Major moving group, which includes most of the Big Dipper, the Hyades, Coma Berenices, and the Pleiades. Elsewhere, in between the constellations Gemini and Leo, is the faint constellation of Cancer, the Crab. In the very center of the Crab is another close star cluster, the Beehive cluster. In Ursa Major, the middle star of the Big Dipper's handle is actually two stars, Mizar and Alcor, perhaps the most famous double star in the sky. Mizar and Alcor were used as a test of eyesight in many ancient civilizations. For those with telescopes, the spring sky is rich with galaxies and globular star clusters. Look in between the constellations Leo and Virgo to see the center of the Virgo Supercluster with dozens to hundreds of galaxies viewable with a modest telescope and dark skies. The globular star cluster M3 can be found between the bright stars Arcturus and Cor Caroli. This is a cluster of some 500,000 stars about 34,000 light years away. A bit later in the night, one of the finest globular star clusters in the sky, M13, will be visible. M13 can be found in Hercules. Hercules' torso is a quadrilateral, often known as the keystone. M13 is on the leading edge of the keystone, about 2/3 of the way over between the two stars. M13 has about 250,000 stars, and it is about 22,000 light-years away. Both of these clusters will be visible through binoculars, but you'll need a telescope to see individual stars. This month's Deep Sky Challenge is the Sombrero Galaxy, M104. This is a disc-shaped galaxy that we see nearly edge-on. It has a prominent ring of dust running lengthwise around the galaxy, appearing as a dark line in the galaxy's glow that can be seen with even a modest telescope. The Sombrero Galaxy is in the constellation Virgo, and can be found using stars in the constellation Corvus. Make a line from the star Alciba to the star Algorab, and continue that line about 50% further. This should take you very close to the galaxy. Good luck. That's all for this month's Mars Hill Almanac, and until next time, happy stargazing.